to review, refine, and align with sector priorities with Kenya's Vision 2030, also with the medium-term plan and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is the development policy of this administration, but is aligned strategically with the other two documents that I've just read. And as we take this new budgeting cycle, our collective duty is to ensure scarce public resources are allocated and applied in ways that maximize economic returns, deepening inclusion, which is very fundamental, deepening inclusion, boost productivity, and sustain fiscal stability for the benefit of all Kenyans. We are launching this process well ahead, as others have already said, of the statutory deadlines to allow for sufficient time for careful prioritization, rigorous scrutiny, and meaningful engagement with the stakeholders across the country. I wish to state that we had the option of just living within the timelines and waiting until maybe to start the process around September and just rush the process through to the election, because we are going to have the budget for 2027-28 approved early, around April. But because this administration has put value in public scrutiny and transparency and public engagement, at the National Treasury we saw it fit that we should start this process early to give us ample time for scrutiny and public debate and discussion around the 2027-28. Hence, this early start of the process. So with the 2027 falling within the general election cycle, early initiation ensures alignment with parliamentary timelines and preserves the integrity and continuity of our fiscal planning. This exercise is grounded in law, and it is a good practice. It complies with Article 220 of the Constitution and sections 35E and 36 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, which require timely commencement of the budget process. In line with these provisions, the National Treasury has issued a circular outlining the guidelines that all government entities must follow. So let me give the context and outlook. I know the details have already been provided by the two principal secretaries, the one of National Treasury and also of Economic Planning. So I will not bore you again with the same data and details. I will just give the highlights of the context and the outlook upon which are underpinning the preparation of the 2027-2028 budget. So we begin the budget cycle within a complex and uncertain global environment. Recent geopolitical tensions and conflicts in the Middle East have amplified commodity price volatility and tightened global financial conditions. These external shocks complicate our macroeconomic management, but do not deter our long-term objectives. Global growth, as you have been told, has been projected to be moderate in 2027, with forecasts indicating an estimated 3.2%, slightly above the 2026 forecast, as the PS had already mentioned. Sub-Saharan Africa maintains relative resilience, with growth expected to remain near 4.3%. But domestically, Kenya's economy is projected to sustain a robust real GDP growth of at least 5.3% over the medium term. This resilience stems from deliberate policy choices and continued implementation of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and also of the fourth medium-term plan. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we commence the 2027-28 budget process, allow me to stress a set of principles that could and should guide our deliberations and decisions. Anchor priorities in a realistic macro-fiscal framework. That is the first principle. So every sector submission must be grounded in a credible macroeconomic forecast and a transparent financing outlook. The National Treasury, in coordination with the relevant technical committees, will set aggregate expenditure ceilings and the financing envelope. These macro parameters are not constraints to avoid, but discipline that compels priority setting. Proposals which respect the envelope and demonstrate strong economic and social returns will be most competitive for public financing. So the financial year 2027-28 and the medium-term budget will remain firmly anchored on the government's better and aligned to the fourth medium-term plan and also Vision 2030. Better's value chain approach steers public resources toward areas that generate jobs, raise incomes at the base of the economy, and widen participation in productive activity. The budget will therefore prioritize interventions that deliver tangible improvements in livelihoods and broaden economic inclusion. So we will consolidate gains through a focused value chain strategy and scale successful interventions to bridge the urban-rural divide. And priority areas will include, first, as you know, the 5 better principles. Number 1 is the agricultural transformation. That will be given prominence. So aiming to modernize and commercialize value chains through county aggregation and industrial parks, promote crop diversification, strengthen livestock productivity, and expand climate resilient support services to enhance food security and incomes. That should be the focus in terms of agricultural transformation. In terms of MSMEs economy, we will be seeking to expand access to affordable credit, formalize enterprises, establish MSMEs hubs, and scale youth empowerment initiatives such as the Nyota program to stimulate inclusive job creation. Under healthcare, we will seek to fast-track universal health coverage by strengthening primary health care, expanding community health services, and deploying medical personnel and improving supply chains and digital health systems. And under housing and settlement, which is the 4th pillar, we will be seeking to promote affordable, climate-resilient housing and planned urban-rural settlements by expanding financing, supporting cooperative models, and upgrading essential infrastructure. And finally, under the digital superhighway and creative economy, the aim will be to accelerate digital connectivity, digitize government services, build youth digital skills, and support creative industries to spur innovation, employment, and economic diversification. So budget choices will favor programs with strong job creation potential, inclusive income growth, and the capacity to catalyze private sector investment. That will be their focus. Strategic enablers will include energy, transport, logistic, digital infrastructure, and climate resilient investments, which will be emphasized to amplify the multiplier effects of public spending. Ladies and gentlemen, faced with the evolving external environment, the government will pursue a prudent fiscal strategy that sustains macroeconomic stability while protecting priority development spending. I am sure you are very keen when data and figures were being presented by the Principal Secretary, National Treasury. You saw how much we are spending in various areas, especially expenditure heads, and more particularly on debt servicing and other CFS expenditures. And it is not a picture to be happy about. So we must look for ways of reversing this going forward. And that will require a lot of engagement in terms of coming up with prudent fiscal strategy, which will help us in sustaining macroeconomic stability while protecting priority development spending. So fiscal consolidation will be underpinned by sustainable domestic revenue mobilization, rationalization of non-essential expenditures, strengthened spending controls, and measures to improve the efficiency of public investment. Please help us by removing the non-essential expenditures. Don't insist on having non-essential expenditures sit on the budget. Please allow us to remove the non-essential expenditures. And you are in a better position as accounting officers to know those expenditures that can be put aside for us to enhance and achieve fiscal consolidation. For the financial year 27-28 and the medium term, we are committing to a more disciplined fiscal path. We will aim to contain overall fiscal deficit below 3.2% of GDP by the financial year 29-30. And it is correct that the fiscal deficit for 2026-27, we have ended at 6.7. Those are provisional data, which should be basically accurate. But remember that the final approval that we got was 7.3. So it means that we have realized a lower fiscal deficit than what was approved by the National Assembly. Allow us or help us even achieve a lower fiscal deficit for 2027-28, so that by 2029-30, we can be at the desired fiscal deficit of 3.2%. That is the only way to deal with ballooning public debt. I mean, public debt that is putting pressure on us and is crowding out crowding out resources from essential services. So the medium-term fiscal framework will be anchored in the following: 1, really GDP growth of at least 5.3% over the medium term. That is the assumption, and that is what we are underpinning our medium-term plan to. Inflation will be maintained within the range of plus or minus 2.5% of the 5% target. That is not less than 2.5% and not higher than 7.5%. 3, gradual easing of interest rates and broadly stable exchange rates. 4, domestic revenue rising to 17.5% of GDP by over the medium term. The PS again mentioned here that we have come down to about 14.2%. That is the ordinary revenue as a percentage of GDP. We were at one point at 18.1. This economy has the potential of collecting up to even 22% of GDP as ordinary revenue. But again, our sector has moved largely to informal sector. Therefore, it is very difficult, I know, to go for the taxpayers, but we are making improvements in our systems to make sure that all the taxpayers pay their fair share of taxes without, again, harassing and frustrating business. We want to contain expenditure below 21.4% of GDP over the medium term to support fiscal consolidation. But allow me to just pause a bit, because when we talk about these numbers and some of them look like they are not very good, it may look like we have not made strides. We still need to do a lot, but I will tell you, as an economy, we have done so much in the past 3 or so years. And contrary to what is being said by the naysayers and the opposition and critics, who a lot of time don't even present data and facts, a lot has been achieved in this administration. And as a counting officer, and I'm sure I'm speaking to Kenyans, and I'm very happy that there is a lot of interest in this hearing today. A lot of interest. Clearly, an evidence that Kenyans have begun to take more keen interest in the affairs and financial management of this country. You can see how the hall is full. Actually, we have even overflow. And therefore, it is important that we engage in robust debate. It is true that our balance of trade has not been getting better, but this is largely attributable to high imports, which is rising faster than exports. And it is largely because of the oil imports in this country, which constitutes about a quarter of total imports. And if we move to electronic or EV vehicles, I am very certain that we will minimize and reduce and make better our balance of trade. We can even have a positive balance of trade very soon. Because the tea sector is performing better than it has been performing. Coffee sector has been revived and it is in a positive trajectory. Even when you look at the fruit subsector, it's doing much better. Edible oil, we are putting a lot of resources in edible oil and it is coming up very well. Sugar reforms have already begun to yield fruits. We had minimized the importation of food in this country. And therefore, largely, agricultural sector is doing very well. And the PS told you that manufacturing sector has started picking up very progressively and is growing at about 4% now. It was growing at negative a while back in 2025. Now it is growing at positive 4%. And the construction sector, I can go on and on. We are all aware that we have recorded high numbers of tourists, visitors in this country, not less than 2.5 million. Although I saw another person who doesn't even care about this country, talking carelessly and recklessly, asking tourists not to come to this country. You ni uchawi. How can you make such a statement publicly and you have, some people are out of their minds. So, what I was saying is that we are receiving high numbers of tourists and I believe that we are going to get more. The Nairobi Securities Exchange is not just doing well by accident. It is because of deliberate policies. One of the policies, the reasons why Nairobi Securities Exchange is doing better, two reasons. One, the investor confidence is high. Again, another, that same character was telling people to stop investing in this country. How do you want to lead a country you don't want people to invest in? Does this guy even understand anything economics, really? And these are not people we should just keep quiet when they talk rubbish and nonsense. Because we don't have any other spare country. We have only one Kenya. And if someone stands to talk carelessly, we must call him out for what it is. If he has another spare country, he can leave. He can, anaweza hamia hiyo country, and he leaves us to stay in this country of ours, if he doesn't like it. And we don't have to wait for you to lead this country to progress. And you may never lead the country at all. And with that kind of mindset, I don't know whether we have enough idiots to follow you to lead this country, to support you to lead this country. Kenyans are not idiots. But it is very annoying for someone to tell investors not to invest in our country at a time when investor confidence has risen. And for investor confidence to rise in a country, it takes effort. It does not just happen in a day. It takes effort. And when those efforts have started bearing fruits, please keep quiet. Keep your village politics to yourself. If you don't want to think national, if you want to think village, and you have gone to the village, please live there, sit there, and don't talk. Don't even address the nation. I have spoken like that because I have a duty. I was given a duty by the people of Kenya to help steer the economy of this country. On behalf of the people of Kenya and on behalf of the government of Kenya and on behalf of the president of Kenya. And when I see someone carelessly and recklessly making statements that would affect the economy of this country and would plunge us into more chaos, I have to call him out for what it is. So I have said one of the reasons why Nairobi Securities Exchange has done better is because, one, the investor confidence has increased in this country and the data is there. The opinion is positive. The second reason is because we in the National Treasury, working together with the Central Bank of Kenya, made sure that the interest rates for domestic borrowing went down. And that therefore made investment in Nairobi Securities Exchange a good option for investors to move to. I think one of us spoke about a return of about 27%. I think it was the PS who said. The return of 27% at the Nairobi Securities Exchange is enough incentive to attract investment in Nairobi Securities Exchange, because investors need return on their investment. That is why they are moving to Nairobi Securities Exchange, giving them good returns. So it is deliberate. These efforts are bearing fruits. Let nobody lie to you that things are not moving. P.S. Makoa told you that we had planned to have about 24,000 kilometers of road network. That we are just less by 1,000, and we are going to hit that possibly by next year. If you go across the country, there is a lot of road construction going on, something that probably has not been witnessed in this country before. The road constructors, because of the decision that we took, has brought road constructors back to the roads. A lot of roads are being constructed. The stadium, we are doing 39 stadiums in almost all the counties of the country. It's not just Talanta Stadium. Talanta Stadium is an international status stadium, the biggest in this country. From 1987, this is the time that we are doing another stadium of international standards. And besides that, we are doing another 39 smaller stadiums across the country, each costing on average about 1 billion shillings. So a lot is going on. But a lot still needs to be done. And I know where there is a challenge. One of the areas where there is a challenge is that Kenyans are complaining they need money in their pockets. But remember this. One, the PS has told you here that for the second year, we are closing the financial year, and that is why I think most accounting officers are here, because you are happy. All the exchequer requests that you gave National Treasury was funded 100%. If you didn't get exchequer requests for 25-26, put up your hand. And that is an economy that someone is telling you is not doing well, where all exchequer requests were released before the end of the financial year. The second year running. Therefore, it means we have stopped accumulation of pending bills in this country, especially at the national government level. If I see any report from any accounting officer of additional pending bills in the last 2 years, you are a fraud. You will explain where that pending bill has come from, and yet we have released all the exchequer requests that you gave us. We have funded counties 100% for 25-26. We have funded NGCDF 100%. We have funded all the approved claims for pension 100%. That is the economy that someone wants to tell you is not doing very well. And we have embarked. The road sector, we have paid all the pending bills, dating back some of them to 2005. We have even shouldered the burden of the Kibaki government, which everybody has been praising, has been doing very well. And Kibaki government did well. We have paid some of their pending bills, which have been pending. And now we are in the process of settling others. So this administration has done so well. I know the concern has been on the pay slip. Next month, I am embarking on public engagement on how to reduce tax burden on pay slips. Some of you thought we have shelved that idea. We haven't. The whole month of August, the reason why we are carrying out public participation is because we made a proposal, and then there were other proposals, some of them saying we should reduce pay across board by 5%. We had proposed up to 30,000, zero pay, and then the rest, the next 20,000, reduced pay. But there are others with other suggestions. We want to put all these together, put them before Kenyans, and by the end of August, I'm going to go across the country. By the end of August, and we have agreed with the President, I bring back the report. We will take legislation in September so that Kenyans get some relief on their pay slips. That is the only thing that someone can talk about. You cannot tell us that this economy is doing bad in anything. We have done all that is required to revive an economy that was on its knees, which even the outgoing president admitted that could not last for 3 months, which IMF had said we were the